This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. Respectonomics is bringing you another edition of Living Journey. Living Journey is the way in which we express our lives, our living lives, let's emphasize the living part, our living lives as a journey from where we are, where we've been, where we're trying to get to. It's a journey, and we're putting out some ideas of how we can enhance and build that journey. We've used this concept of light being pushed through or being placed through a prism. If you shine a light through a prism, you get this sort of rainbow effect. You may remember from school days, you got these different, because of their different wavelengths, you got these different colors. You got a formula called Roig-Biv: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, to which each of these we have applied a feature or a characteristic of our human experience. So for the R, we have respect, O is open, Y is you, G is growth, B is balance, I is identity, and V is victory. We're going to emphasize today or work on the principle of balance. We last did the one on growth. We want to look at balance, though, as a way in which we bring all of these characteristics together. We said that if you take one of these colors out, the rainbow, if you will, collapses. So it's very important to have these 7 ingredients, these 7 qualities working together. And put it another way, we're talking about the concept of balance. Before we go any further, my name is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I am your voice of Respectonomics. I am your year of Respectonomics. I can be reached at jeremy@respectonomics.com. And you can get us through the website as well, respectonomics.com. The reason we want your feedback and the reason we emphasize this is twofold. One is because we need to hear your feedback, your criticisms, your likes and dislikes, things that you want us to expand on or to narrow down on. But the other thing is this: the principle behind Respectonomics is to reproduce, to restate, to reignite, whatever word you prefer to use, restore, recover, reinvent, remake the dignity of the human being, restoring the dignity of the human being. We think this is absolutely essential because the dignity of the human being is being suppressed, it is being submerged for a variety of reasons. You can point at the inappropriate imbalance of wealth. You can talk about the politics of the day, the warfare, the selfishness, the greed, the lack of education. Everybody's got their perspective on it, and take a good stab at the internet while you're at it. There's all kinds of reasons. But the truth of the matter is the dignity of the human being is so important because it represents 2 things. One is it's an expression of what we are meant to be. We are meant to be dignified entities. That almost is the definition of a human being, that we are a receptacle of dignity. But the other thing is we need to be in a place where we can look at other people and dignify them. And dignify doesn't mean you just pat them on the back and say, "You're nice." No, it means that you are looking at them, talking with them, and exploring with them that their dignity, their worth. What are they worth? What are they doing? Of course they're worth. That alone is the dignity, the essence of dignity, that the human being is worth it, is worthwhile. But the other part to it is there are so many values in individual human beings that we can dignify, that we can express as a value, that we can bring it out to the surface. When we do that, we produce a society, a civilization. Let's go to the real word. We come to a civilization where we learn to dignify one another in respect of building one another up. When you build one another up, that's when you start getting the new prosperity, the new hope, the stability, and you start building a legacy that you can be proud of. you can actually get into your coffin one day and say, yep, I gave it a fair go. So, with all of this in mind, we're now looking at these different colors of the rainbow. So far, we've talked about respect and openness, you and growth. This time, we're going to talk about balance. And I want to talk about balance from two points of view. The first one is you can take the most brilliant piece of machinery. You can take a Ferrari, you can take something that's going to fly off to Mars. You can try any piece of equipment that you can actually think of. You can go as basic as a hammer. You can go with a nail. You can go with a piece of wood. You can think of anything in your life. You can think of, in fact, putting on your shoes. You can think of standing in front of the sink, brushing your teeth. But think of all the things you do, having a cup of coffee, having a meal with some friends, opening the car door. Every single one of those actions, regardless of the strength that is required, which it may well be, there may be strength required. But if you're opening a door, for example, a car door, well, a lot of that's done electronically now. But whatever it is that you're doing, there's one word that is absolutely essential for the effective operation of that piece of equipment, and that is balance. You can take any piece of machinery you like. You can take an electric motor. If an electric motor is out of balance, frankly, it blows up. If you look at a boat that is out of balance, it will capsize. If an airplane is out of balance, chances are it won't even get to take off. You can think of the word balance in so many ways. You can actually put your socks on and try balancing on one foot. And when you find out you can only do it for a few seconds, you can start thinking about the importance of balance there. If you talk to somebody who bicycles, if you talk to somebody who skis, or somebody who plays hockey, or somebody who likes to sit at their desk and whirl their chair around, whatever it is, the word balance is absolutely, fundamentally, physically important. So I think we can all agree on the whole principle of balance. And what that means is that when things are out of balance, we need to be able to produce at least the first thing is to recognize that something is out of balance. And when it's out of balance, there is one thing that comes to the table as much as anything. It's not sustainable. It will not work reliably. So, for example, today we have this imbalance between those at the top of an organization and those at the lower ends. The difference in salaries or in wages is absolutely out of proportion. It's out of balance. You think of political parties and the way they exercise their power and their velocity, what they do, and you would say often it's out of balance. So one of the things about being out of balance is for all of us to stop in our tracks and ask for balance. And it'll tell you how you do it. Next time you're at a meeting, whether it's a faith organization or whether it's a major corporation shareholders meeting, just put up your hand and say, would you talk to us about balance and how you see the interests being balanced? You might say in the corporate world, how are you balancing the interests of the shareholder, the employees, and the customers and the suppliers? What is that basic ingredient that you use that brings this balance to the table? Do you consider balance? Do you talk about balance? How do you feel about balance? But even just asking the question, and frankly, putting it out there and saying to people, if you are in a position of authority or power or privilege, if you are, you need to understand the word balance of how you balance your interests with the community at large. Now, this sounds very much like a sort of social statement, and it sort of sounds borderline activist and so on. I think it's nothing to do with that. It's taking an interest in the entire concept of how the planet works. The planet wants to be in balance. It asks us to be in balance. It asks for our systems to be in balance. We need to be in balance with nature. We need to be in balance with the environment. It's a word that we can look at as being one that breeds coexistence. It's a word that we just need to come to grips with and to talk about it and say to our friends, how do you balance your interests? How do you balance your work life? How do you balance your marriage? How do you balance your children? It's a word that we should just put out there and start talking about it, thinking about it, embracing it, imbibing it, ingesting it, whatever way you want to look at it. It's a very, very important central icon, really, to the any kind of movement that we have. If you have movement, you need balance. If the balance isn't there, the movement will eventually come to a halt. You might say, well, that's a good thing because the movement that you're talking about is not a very attractive one. Fair enough. But most of us look at our lives, we look at our earning capacity, we look at the way we come home in the evenings or in the mornings, wherever it is. We think of the way that we eat, and we ask for ourselves that we hope we're having a balanced diet. I mean, which doctor doesn't say you need to balance your diet? You need to balance yourself with your exercise and your trying to think of the right word for a moment, but you need to be able to balance with exercise and so on. I want, though, now that we've sort of put balance as a word out there that's so important to bringing us back into balance, because the world is out of balance today, as long as we can say, okay, that makes sense, we've got to start attending to it and talking about it and going to the leaders and saying, give me your comments on balance. How do you do it? What do you mean by it? What store do you put on it? We want to hear that. And that's the sort of external demand, if you will, or the external provocation of finding out what other people feel and believe about balance. But there's another balance, and that's a balance within oneself, because we cannot escape the human construction, the human character. We are definitively made up of three parts. We are this triangle. We are made up of the body, which is the part that's sort of, well, in this case, doing the talking. There's the mind, which is the what in fact is allowing these thoughts to get projected and so on. And then, of course, there's the soul or the spirit, call it whatever you like to do. But it is that third part of the human being that is integral to our very living and to our survival. And if you believe in the concept of balance, let's just agree on that for a moment. Yes, balance is important. Say it to yourself, say it to me, say it to the world, say it to your family, but to say balance is important. Because if balance is important, we can then pull that back to one's own self. It's not a lot of sense going around talking about the balance that's necessary in the world in economics, politics, finance, you know, climate, whatever you want to call. But if we are our own selves are out of balance, our message lacks authenticity, it lacks conviction, and it might even be viewed as one of hypocrisy. That being the case, the first thing we can do, and I think it is the first thing to do, is to make sure that our own lives are in balance. And by being your life in balance, you hear that expression, you know, hear people saying, well, you should work harder or shorter, you should be taking more exercise and all those things. Those are very good balancing items. We all agree with them. But the balance I'm talking about is very much within one's own orbit, within one's own self. And that is the balance of the body and the mind and the soul. Each one works towards the other. It is the most extraordinary thing. They are independent and totally collaborative and totally need one another. One cannot exist without the other. Or it can exist, but it absolutely fails to meet the human being's potential and bringing the talents and skills to the fore. That being the case, what we need to do is to look at oneself. And this is what you do, literally. Just look at yourself. You don't mind looking in the mirror. You look in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth or putting on some makeup or putting on some cream or whatever it is. But everybody uses a mirror. So you mirror the body. You can use a mirror on the mind and say, what is my mind doing? Is it active? Is it in process? Is it gaining? Is it learning? Is it healthy? Is it being excited? Is it being stimulated? Does my mind work? You can think about your mind. So you've thought about your body and looking at it in the mirror. You think about your mind and you have to think about what mirrors your mind. It may be conversations with other people, maybe your finest mirror. And then you look at your soul. And this is a subject that most people want to say, well, it's a bit uncomfortable, it's a bit awkward. Well, it seems to me a bit strange to say that because it's actually integral to oneself, number one. And number two, 92% of people have spiritual thoughts every day in one shape or form. It could be as what you might call basic or profound, depending on your point of view, but as, does the soul go on forever or is it finite? Is it existential? And you get into all these kinds of questions. But what you do is every time you ask that question, you are admitting to yourself the very nature and the existence of your soul. And the soul is the canary in the mine. It's the one that actually signals to you very privately, very personally, and very non-judgmentally whether the parts elsewhere in your life are in order and in balance. By respecting, therefore, the nature of one's soul and the existence of it and its incredible value and its jewel-like quality, when you actually look at your soul in that concept, in that context, then it becomes a breeding ground for both your body and your mind. And it therefore becomes that triangle that is, in fact, totally congruent. If you think of congruency, do you remember at school you used to do triangles and you used to do three equal sides and it was called a congruent triangle? And then there was somebody who said, what if it only had two sides equal? That was called an isosceles, which I never understood. And then, of course, there was the one thing when no sides were equal, it was called a scalene. I individually, personally, do not want to be a scalene. I do not want to be an isosceles. I want to be a congruent triangle. And therefore, respecting and integrating these three parts and putting them in balance, the balance of the body and the mind and the soul. If we agree that that is where the finest balance is created, then we've got a chance of putting that balance and that formula, if you want to call it a formula, but being able to put that theme at work in other people's lives. It might be as immediate as your family. It might be in your service club or your community. It might be at your local council. But think about the word of balance. Ask people what they're doing about the balancing and keep in mind that the balance within yourself, when somebody says to you, so how do you keep in balance? You can say, I keep in balance by respecting and dignifying the integral parts of my being, my body, my mind, and my soul. That when we integrate those three together, then we can have the sense of congruency, we can have the sense of a great strength and a great sense of stability. So the question for the day is, have you considered the balance of your own humanity? My name is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. We greatly look forward to your intercessions and your interjections. We need your feedback. And we believe that these are very important issues. Do you know something? A lot of these issues, when we talk about respect and openness and growth and identity, and in this case, we were talking about balance, I'll throw down the gauntlet. Where else are you hearing about these things? Where else are these being promoted? Where are these things being centered on from a leadership point of view? And my contest is, I don't think they are. And it's time for us to join together and make sure that these brilliant characteristics of the human being are brought right to the podium, right to that iconic stage for which they were all intended. Because when you do that, our individual purpose becomes not only a purpose, it becomes a reality. On that, I shall rest my case, leave you again with that one question. Have you balanced your body and your mind and your soul today?